often think about how fun it is to add house numbers to one of my master plan designs as a design boost, a fun detail that I can pull and add together with trim color and little fence line details and lighting and other things like that. But house numbers serve a purpose. Hi, I'm Della Hansmann of Mid Mod Midwest, and I'm here with Brandon McLean, founder of Modern House Numbers. And today I actually want to ask about, why do we have house numbers? Like, what's the history of their existence? Are they everywhere? Where do they come about? And you might know a lot about this. I really don't. So Brandy, what can you tell us about the history of house numbers in American houses?
Sure. I don't think it's something that a lot of people consider. It's something that, is essential part of like modern urban life these days. So house numbers were first established in America in 1856, and they were created during the Industrial Revolution,
That
where
late.
rapid expansion of cities and house numbering became essential for city planning, postal deliveries, and emergency services. Today the global standard of house numbering exists, although it might change a little bit from country to region. For example, in the US, we have a standard of one side of the street having odd number house numbers and the other side of the street having even house numbers, but that
Oh, of
doesn't exist
course.
across the world. So house numbering plays a critical role in not only organization of a city, navigation, as well as emergency services, while still providing you an opportunity to express your personal style and design.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I've been in Europe, and I've been out of Europe in places where building numbers are not even an odd, but it never actually occurred to me that that is a universal standard in the US. It is. Maybe, do you know, is it like always east versus west, or is it just opposite sides of the street in whatever way the street makes place? I guess.
It goes, I was curious about that too. So I actually looked that up. It can be east to west or north to south. It really just depends on the area.
Fascinating.
And
Cool. So wow, the
most
1850s. That's more recent than I would have thought.
I did too. I was shocked it was yeah, it was then. And I think another standard thing that I saw across when I was doing my research is that the standard size now from the past, as we previously talked about, where house numbers might be 2 or 3 inches on your home,
Mhm.
really ranges from like thick 5 to 8 inches. So those are kind of the across the US city building code standards.
Interesting. Well, it makes sense. I mean, I think there was probably a time when a local postal carrier might have just known the last name of everybody on their route and known what house to take things to, just like telephone operators would have known who to bring through on a telephone line. But at this point, there are so many addresses and getting things so much national shipping and international shipping, that if there wasn't a system that anybody could go find that house, it wouldn't work properly. Although it can still make chaos. I regularly, no ding on the postal service, they are overworked folks, but I regularly get mail for my house number, but like 2 or 3 streets over, and then have to go on a dog walk and take the packages where they belong. That seems to be the most common mistake. Same number, wrong street, which is interesting as a statement of how much the number is the thing that somebody, a person or a machine, is relating to, and they're paying less attention to those pesky words.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't think we realize too, like it's just such a technology thing that we always have with us now is navigation. When I was little, we went on vacation, you had a map and you were looking at the freeways, but now we have such rapid like technology with us that if I'm looking to find Della's house, I type it in and boom, it tells me how to get there. So I think the navigation of how you get from one place to another is really changed over time. Even over the last 25 years, it's rapidly changed with the use of technology.
I think that's true. And I think now we used to sort of navigate more by neighborhood and then maybe cross streets, and it was
Mhm.
a lot more about the name of the place. And
That's
now I feel like the first thing you do is you put it into your phone or your computer window search bar. One of the things I love in technology is when I have a new client or prospective client and someone calls me for advice about the house, they tell me their address and I put it into Google and get their Zillow listing. And this
oh
has been like a So sometimes a family transfer or an off-market sale won't show up, but I get this sort of glimpse into a nice set of realtor organized photographs and everything. But the funny thing is, sometimes I'll start to get suggestions that are pretty close to accurate just from the number itself before I even put in the street name or the city.
Yeah, it
Literally,
starts
it's a route and it's like
populating for
six
it.
numbers.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fun. I hadn't thought about it that way, but we really do live in a interconnected age when the number on a house needs to be standard and it needs to be kind of the most important thing about the address rather than the old Thompson place on Bridge Lane, you know?
yeah, exactly. And I guess as we, are less as our, populations grow and, the telephone operator, as you were saying, doesn't know every family in the community anymore. So the numbers are even more important.
Do you find, well, this sort of circles back around because I think people also, well-to-do people used to also have names for their properties. Do you
Yes.
find when you're selling people modern house numbers that in addition to their required numerals, that they're also asking for a street name or they're asking for like a house, a nickname as part of their order? Does that happen?
We do. Yeah. It's typically an install that's next to the door where they might do like a 2-line install with the first line being like larger, maybe 8-inch house numbers, and then their family name or a residence name if they have a nickname, as you were saying, smaller, maybe like 4-inch letters underneath. And we see that with like large plaques that we sell as well. But I do think that's fun. And a couple of things that we've done the last couple of years is people had made like logos for their homes. They might not have a name for their home, but we did one that had like, it was a graphic designer and they had made this delicate looking palm tree for their home and they lived in Florida. And so they wanted a couple different plaques to put around their property of their home's logo. So that was something new I hadn't seen before.
Oh, that's fun. That is a really fun thing to think about creating for your house if you're designing or if you want to engage with someone designing to make one for you. I'm sure that's an Etsyable thing.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, this has been a really interesting little history deep dive. When you were looking into the history of house numbers, did you turn up any other fun facts you want to share?
Well, I found it interesting, like overseas, it seems like house numbers, obviously they're prevalent, but they were typically smaller than in the US. And I think, I was thinking about that because their sizes were like, their standard size was quite smaller than ours. But I was thinking about how, in the US, much of our streetscapes are motor driven, where overseas a lot more are pedestrian or bike driven, and even the street wests are much closer. So I was kind of intrigued by that when I first saw that standard being much smaller, because so theirs might be more like the 2 to 4 inch size requirement. And then as I started to think about it, I just thought that the front yards typically overseas are much smaller or non-existent, and it's much more a pedestrian way than we have a lot in the US. So, except in real urban areas.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I think, my era of house, mid-century houses, I adore them. I'm not such a big fan of mid-century urban planning. And it was definitely an era when houses got further apart from each other and the streets got wider, ostensibly for parking on both sides, but then they also came in with the 2-car garages. So then you just have these big wide streets, which kind of encourage everyone to rush. And the faster you're going and the further you are from your point of vision, the bigger you need a house number to be so you can see it as you go by. Um,
Definitely.
that's definitely a thing. So yeah, interesting in a smaller width street and in a slower throughway speed, you would need smaller house numbers, or you could get away with smaller house numbers anyway. You might
Absolutely.
want bigger ones just for aesthetic purposes anyway. Fascinating. Well, I am such a sucker for history of all types, and this is a really interesting piece that I think we went from not needing house numbers to having a standard system to now in mid-century houses in particular, we need bigger numbers because we've got these nice, generous front yard setbacks and wide boulevarded streets where people kind of need to be able to see at a distance and while they're whipping along to make sure they're going to stop at
Absolutely.
your house and bring you
And
what
as
you want.
as we stay home more and work from home more, we have more deliveries and, things like
Yeah.
that too, that in the past it might have been more just friends and family visiting our homes except in an emergency case. But now we have almost daily deliveries because it's so easy to, place an order online and have it delivered to your door the next day.
Yeah, we have a lot more one-off visitors, or I guess people coming to find the house searchers maybe, rather
Mhm.
than it used to be someone would just know how to get to your house because they had been there before and they were going to come back many times. But now it's the delivery person, the maybe if you're working from home, it might be if you have any in-person appointments. And I'm seeing that trend a lot through the way we're master planning houses in general, not just in house numbers. Just had an interesting chat with a fellow yesterday who is converting his 3-bedroom house into a 4-bedroom house because he and his wife both work from home and they have a baby coming and
Exciting.
they need another bedroom because they've got their bedroom and the other 2 spaces are occupied. They need a nursery. So what they're doing is they're converting a 2-car garage down into a 1.5-car garage to make a second office space. And it's just, it would have been a completely, why on earth would you do that thing to do 20 years ago? Less garage and 4 bedrooms for 2 people, but now it's a completely logical way to update a house and sort of future-proof it for this next sort of, they both intend to have their entire careers working from home. That's how it's going to work. So
Absolutely. I
it all
wonder if
changes.
the trend of like house number square footage, I think it's going to go up. Office square footage in general is going down because there are people who are working from home and there's a lot of available office space. But I feel like as an architectural trend moving forward, it like homes are going to be bigger because one person or multiple people are working from home, and it's changed the environment of how we use our homes.
Right? Yeah, I think we're changing the way that I definitely see my master plan clients looking for. They do need office space, either temporary or permanent. They need that to be differently interfaced. People often used to do like a guest space / home office, but now sometimes guests are coming and staying for longer. You're not pausing work while they're there. It's not vacation time. It's sort of like double time. So yeah, there's a lot of shifts happening, I think, in the way that we consider our homes in general, and then those things come out and they manifest in the history of the micro details like house number size, which is so fascinating.
Absolutely. And, I think too, there's a trend of just culturally, I think in the past, maybe like our grandparents' age, where you just like your bedroom was a function of sleeping. And
Mhm.
there was no TVs, there was no other, entertainment. And, bedrooms were quite small. So even for children, toys were probably more in the common space. And, as things have changed over the last few decades, bedrooms are bigger. We have technology and TVs and 3DS systems and lots of toys and stuff. So I think the use of bedrooms, is evolving again now with the add of an office. But they definitely continue to evolve. So I wonder if we, look back at this in a couple more decades, what the trend will be.
It's going to be really interesting. And we leave our marks on houses. They last longer than we do, ideally. It would be very wasteful to have a house that only lasted as long as one generation of people. And then as lifestyles change, we change the houses to sort of keep up. And that's really the fun part of how you can make a career in thinking about buildings. We get to see the sort of the manifestation of people's needs and trends and hopes. And of course, there's a lot of personal choices that involve in that, but our bigger cultural changes are always informing what people want for their own homes.
Absolutely. Well,
Well,
this
this
is
has been a fun
lots of
history
fun.
deep dive. I love it. And if you did not have what is the age of the concept of house numbers on your bingo card for today, then you missed out, but here it is.